Today, a woman walked into my nail shop with a story ugly enough to poison every holiday in a family. For privacy reasons, I'm changing the names. My client is Lila. Her cousin is Mia. And before Lila was even halfway through it, I already knew this was not about one bad boyfriend. It was a pattern. Lila didn't come in crying. No smeared mascara, no shaking voice, no dramatic collapse into the chair. She looked composed in that specific way women do when the same humiliation has happened too many times and they're too tired to perform surprise anymore. She looked at the color wheel and said, "I want something dark." I showed her two shades, one softer, one sharper. She tapped the darker one and said, "No, darker. I don't want to look forgiving today." That told me plenty. I asked, "Bad week?" She gave this small, tired smile and said, "My cousin has gone after every man I ever brought home for the holidays." That got my full attention. Not because it sounded dramatic, because she didn't say one man. She said every man. That is not bad luck. That is a system. While I was shaping her nails, I asked, "What does she do?" Lila let out one slow breath and said, "She doesn't throw herself at them. That would actually be easier." She was right. According to Lila, Mia was beautiful in the exact way families forgive too much for. Pretty face, bright eyes, always dressed just polished enough to look effortless. The kind of woman older relatives call sweet, and men call easy to talk to. But Lila said Mia's real weapon was not just how she looked, it was how she made men feel. She listened hard, laughed at the right moment, remembered small details and brought them back later, like she had been paying more attention than anyone else in the room. And she had this soft, interested way of asking questions that made men feel smarter, calmer, and more understood than they probably were. That was the dangerous part. Mia never came in acting shameless. She came in acting warm. Lila said, "She slides." That word stayed with me. Slides, yes, that was exactly it. Not loud enough for a room to condemn. Not innocent enough to miss if you were the one getting hurt. I asked her when it started. "Thanksgiving," Lila said. I was 21. First serious boyfriend. First time bringing a man home. First time making the mistake of believing family would behave in front of company. Lila said Mia came in late, wearing a cream sweater and gold hoops, kissed everybody hello, and noticed Lila's boyfriend before she even sat down. Not in some obvious messy way. That would have been easier to fight. No, Mia's style was cleaner than that. Lila had barely settled in before Mia stepped in and asked my boyfriend if he wanted something to drink. Then Mia showed my boyfriend where the good food was. Then she laughed at my boyfriend's jokes like she had known him forever. Then came the line that made Lila's stomach drop. Mia smiled at my boyfriend and said, "You seem way more patient than the kind of guy Lila usually dates." I stopped filing for a second, because that sentence did three things at once. It praised the man, it put Lila down, and it planted the idea that he could do better than her. That is filthy work. Lila said my boyfriend laughed it off. Of course he did. Most men do not hear danger when it arrives wrapped in admiration. Then before dessert, Mia asked my boyfriend for his number. Her excuse? She wanted help picking out a Christmas gift for Lila. Please. My hand actually paused for a second, because that is exactly the kind of move women like Mia live on. Too innocent to call disgusting out loud. Too rotten to misunderstand up close. Lila said my boyfriend gave Mia his number because he didn't want to make things awkward. That phrase has excused a lot of weak behavior. A few days later, Mia started messaging him. At first it looked harmless. Questions about gifts. Questions about what Lila liked. Questions that made it sound like she was being thoughtful. Then it shifted. Mia started saying things like, "Lila gets weird when she really likes someone. And she acts chill, but she can actually be a lot." And then the one that did the damage. "I just don't want you to get blindsided." There it was. Mia was not stealing men by seducing them first. She was changing the version of Lila that lived in their heads. Turning serious into intense. Turning warm into hard work. That kind of woman does not need to be the prettiest in the room. She just needs to sound believable. I asked Lila what happened when she confronted Mia the first time. Lila gave that same tired smile and said, Mia blinked twice and asked why I was trying to start drama before Christmas. Of course she did. Women like Mia survive by making your reaction look uglier than what they actually did. I asked, "And your family?" Lila said, "They all took the easy side." That did not surprise me. Her aunt said Mia was naturally affectionate. Her mother told her not to ruin Thanksgiving after the fact. One older cousin even said maybe Lila was reading too much into it. That is how families train women to distrust themselves. Not with one huge betrayal, with 100 little dismissals. The first boyfriend was gone by Christmas, officially because he wasn't ready for anything serious. Sure, then came Christmas boyfriend number 2. Different man, same cousin, same family house, same pattern. This time Mia borrowed Lila's lipstick without asking, wore it through dinner, sat too close to my boyfriend during a movie, and asked him if he ever got tired of being the calm one in relationships. That irritated me all over again, because Mia was not just flirting, she was assigning roles, making the man feel stable, patient, special. and making Lila sound like the kind of woman a man had to manage. That is not regular jealousy. That is erosion. According to Lila, this second boyfriend did not technically cheat. He just liked the attention. Then he got distant. Then he was gone. After that, Lila stopped bringing men home. Not because she stopped dating, because she stopped giving Mia new material. That told me how far this had gone. Lila was not even thinking of her cousin as family anymore. She was thinking of her as a recurring threat she had to manage. I asked, "So after that you really kept your whole dating life away from your family?" She nodded. For a while. Then her eyes dropped to the table. When she looked back up, her voice had changed. More careful. Then I met someone who felt worth the risk. I stayed quiet and let her keep going. She said his name was Ethan. And Ethan was the first man she thought was actually worth bringing home for Christmas. That was the first time the story really hurt. Because now this was not just another holiday humiliation. This was the one that mattered. Lila told me Ethan was quieter than the others, harder to impress, the kind of man who noticed things without performing that he noticed them. In other words, the first man Mia might not be able to slide past. Lila said she almost did not bring Ethan to Christmas. Almost. But once you really care about someone, hiding him starts to feel like punishment. So she brought him. And according to Lila, the second Mia saw Ethan, she smiled. Not surprised. Not shy. Recognizing. Like she had just found this year's target. Then, less than an hour into the party, Mia accidentally spilled red wine down the front of Lila's dress, made a huge show of apologizing, shoved napkins into her hands, and sent her upstairs to change. When Lila came back downstairs, Mia had Ethan cornered by the staircase. I asked, "Doing what?" Lila looked me straight in the eye and said she was touching my boyfriend's arm and telling him I'd always been hard to love. I set the brush down. Because now we were past flirting. That was strategy. And that still was not the worst thing Mia said that night. I kept my hand steady and asked, what was the worst thing she said? Lila looked down at the table for a second. Then she said, she told Ethan I was the kind of woman men stayed with out of guilt. That was vicious. Not loud. Not messy. Just sharp enough to sink into the wrong man if he wanted an excuse badly enough. I asked, and Ethan? Something shifted in Lila's face then. Not softness. Not relief exactly. Something closer to disbelief. Even now, like part of her still had not gotten over the fact that this story did not end the way the others had. She said, he didn't believe her. That changed everything. Because up to that point, this had been a story about repetition. Now it was becoming a story about interruption. I asked, what did he do? Lila gave one tired little laugh and said, he let her keep talking. That was smart. Very smart. According to Lila, Ethan did not pull his arm away right away. He did not make a scene. He did not storm across the room and expose Mia in front of everyone by the staircase. He just stayed calm, looked at her, and let her keep going. And Mia, apparently, made the mistake women like her always make once they think they are winning. She got comfortable. Too comfortable. Lila said Mia lowered her voice and kept building. Not flirting. Building. She told Ethan that Lila had always been too intense to keep things easy. She said Lila got clingy when she cared too much. She said men usually figured out too late that dating Lila felt less like peace and more like pressure. I felt my mouth tighten at that. Because that kind of attack is never random. Mia was not trying to steal one conversation. She was trying to write a whole version of Lila for Ethan to step into if he ever wanted out. That is what makes women like Mia so dangerous. They pre-write the breakup for you. I asked, how much of that did you hear yourself? Lila said, enough. Then she looked at me and added, not every word, but enough to know exactly what she was trying to do. That made sense. Sometimes you do not need the whole speech. Sometimes one hand on my boyfriend's arm and one poisoned tone in the wrong corner of the room tells you everything. Lila said she froze at the bottom of the stairs for one humiliating second, still holding her ruined dress away from her body, and thought, here we go again. Same cousin, same holiday, same shame, and according to her that was the worst part. Not jealousy, not panic, exhaustion. The exhaustion of realizing she might have to survive the same humiliation one more time. That I understood immediately. After enough repeats, certain wounds stop feeling sharp, they just get heavy. Lila said she was about to walk over when Ethan finally stepped back and said, very calmly, you've done this before, haven't you? That was good. That was very good. Because in one sentence, he had already done 3 things. He refused the intimacy, he exposed the pattern, and he put Mia in the position she hated most, observed. Lila said Mia actually blinked. Then she smiled this fake little smile and said, I'm just trying to be honest with you. Please. I did not even try to hide my face at that one, because manipulative people love the word honest the second somebody catches them being filthy. I asked, what did Ethan say? Lila's mouth twitched. He said, no, you're trying to get me to see her through your eyes. That was excellent. According to Lila, Mia's tone shifted right after that. Not enough for the room to notice, but enough for Ethan to. Enough for Lila to.
Enough for anybody with working instincts to hear the edge underneath the sweetness. Mia crossed her arms, tilted her head, and asked Ethan whether he really thought he knew Lila that well already. Then she added, "You'll see." There it was. That ugly little threat women like Mia always leave hanging in the air. Not a warning. A wish. I asked, "Did you walk over then?" Lila nodded. "Yes," and she smiled at me like nothing happened. Of course she did. The smile is always for the room. The insult is always for you. Lila said. Mia dabbed at the wine stain on her dress with a napkin and said, "I feel terrible. You know I'd never hurt you on purpose." That made me look up. Because the lie always gets more insulting when it arrives wearing concern. Lila said she did not make a scene. Not downstairs. Not in front of her parents. Not in front of the cousins. Not in front of the same people who had spent years choosing convenience over truth. And that, honestly, was smart. Because if she had exploded right there, Mia would have gotten exactly what Mia always got. A new performance. A new chance to look calm while Lila looked unstable. Instead, Lila got through dinner. She answered what she had to answer. She smiled when she had to smile. She let the room keep breathing. And later that night, after everybody had gone home, she asked Ethan exactly what Mia had said while she was upstairs. Lila said, "I thought he'd soften it." That made sense too. A lot of men soften ugly truths because they think women are asking for comfort when they are actually asking for clarity. But according to Lila, Ethan did not soften anything. He told her exactly what Mia said. Then he reached for his phone. That made me pause my work. I asked. "He recorded her?" Lila nodded once. Not from the beginning, but enough. That was enough for me too, because now this had crossed from pattern into proof. Lila said Ethan only started recording after Mia told him she was the kind of woman men stayed with out of guilt, not before. Not because he walked into Christmas expecting a trap, but because the way Mia said it made him realize this was not drunk nonsense or some catty cousin joke. This was practiced. He caught the part where Mia said Lila drained people. He caught the part where Mia said men pitied her before they left. And he definitely caught the part where Mia said in that soft little poisoned tone, "She doesn't know how to keep anything gentle." That sentence made me set her hand down completely. Because what a disgusting thing to build. Not just criticism, identity. Mia was not trying to make Ethan dislike one behavior. She was trying to define who Lila was. That is darker than flirting. I asked. "What did Ethan do with the recording?" Lila said he handed her the phone in the car and told her, "I need you to hear it exactly as she said it." That line hit me hard, because that is what respect sounds like when a woman has spent years being told she is overreacting, not calm down. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. Don't let her get to you. Exactly as she said it. Lila told me she listened to the recording twice in Ethan's car. The first time she felt embarrassed. The second time she got angry. Really angry. Not the helpless kind. The useful kind. The kind that clears your vision instead of fogging it. She said, "That was the first time I stopped wondering whether I was imagining any of it. I believed that instantly. Instinct warns you. Evidence lets you stop apologizing for having listened." I asked, "What happened next?" Lila smiled then. Not warmly. Not sweetly. Just enough for me to know Mia's Christmas did not end the way Mia expected. She said, "At first, nothing." That was interesting because it meant she was finally done reacting on Mia's timing. According to Lila, she spent the next day thinking, not crying, not spiraling, thinking, and while she was thinking, Ethan sent her something else. Screenshots. 3 messages Mia had sent him after the party. The first one said, "I hope I didn't make things awkward last night. I just hate seeing good men get trapped in the wrong relationships. Vile." The second one said, "You seem too smart not to notice what she's really like. Predictable." The third one was my favorite. "Don't tell Lila I said any of this. She gets mean when she feels threatened." There. That was Mia's whole strategy in 3 little texts. Isolate. Poison. Pre-frame. Make the target sound unstable before she even speaks. I asked, "Did Ethan answer any of them?" Lila shook her head. "No, he screenshotted everything and sent it straight to me." Good. Very good. That told me 2 things. First, Mia had finally picked a man who was not flattered by secret access. Second, she had made the mistake manipulative people always make after a long winning streak. She assumed everybody was as weak as the ones before. That's exactly how predators get sloppy. Lila said she spent the whole next evening going back through old holidays in her head, and suddenly every weird interaction with Mia made sickening sense. A helpful text, a flattering comparison, a fake concern, a borrowed lipstick, a warning dressed up as care. All of it followed the same design. I asked, "Did you ever go back and see whether Mia had done the same thing to your earlier boyfriends?" She nodded slowly, not from all of them, but enough. That got my attention immediately, because now this was no longer just one Christmas ambush. This was a repeat offender with history. Lila said she reached out to one ex she could still speak to without wanting to throw her phone across the room. Not because she wanted him back. Absolutely not. But because she wanted to know whether Mia had done then what she had just done now. According to Lila, he hesitated at first, then awkwardly admitted yes. Mia had messaged him too. Several times. Always sounding concerned. Always making Lila sound difficult. Always making herself sound easier, lighter, sweeter, calmer. That part made my stomach turn, because it meant Mia did not improvise this behavior. She refined it, like a skill, like some private little sport she had gotten good at. Lila said that X even found one old message still buried in his account. Mia had written, "You seem like someone who wants peace. Lila doesn't always know how to create that." I stared at her for a second after that, because women like Mia always reach for the same bait words. Peace, gentle, easy, calm, soft. They know exactly what fantasy weak men like to hear, and they know exactly how to make another woman sound like the obstacle to it. I asked, "Did your family know any of this?" Lila looked at me for a second, and that look answered before she even spoke. Then she said, "They knew enough." That did not surprise me either. Families rarely know every detail, but they almost always know enough to stop pretending nothing is wrong. And according to Lila, this was the year she finally stopped helping them pretend. She looked down at her nearly finished nails and said, "By the day after Christmas, I had screenshots, an audio clip, and one old message from an ex, and for the first time in years, I didn't want Mia to deny it in private." Now that was a line. Because yes, private denial is exactly where women like Mia stay protected. They need side rooms. They need plausible deniability. They need relatives whispering, "Let's not make this bigger than it is." Lila was done with all of that. I asked, "So what did you do?" She held my gaze and said, "I sent everything to the family group chat, and that was when I knew Christmas had finally stopped belonging to Mia." I looked at her and said, "What happened in the group chat?" Lila gave me a smile so small it barely counted. Then she said, "Silence, for 11 minutes. That was beautiful, because in families like hers, silence is never neutral. Silence means people are reading. Silence means people know. Silence means nobody has found a clean lie yet." Lila told me she sent everything at once. The audio clip Ethan recorded, the screenshots Ethan sent her, the old message from her ex, no speech, no dramatic paragraph, just the evidence. Then one line, "Since everybody always says I'm overreacting, I figured I'd let Mia explain this herself." That was cold, and cold was exactly right, because warmth is wasted on people who survive by twisting it. I asked, "Who answered first?" Lila said, "Not Mia, of course not. Women like Mia are brave right up until the room sees paperwork." According to Lila, the first response came from an older aunt who had spent years calling Mia sweet. She wrote, "What exactly am I listening to?" That almost made me laugh, because that is always how people do it when denial starts cracking. They do not say, "I was wrong." They start with confusion. It sounds cleaner. Then Lila's mother wrote, "Mia, is this real?" Not, "Lila, calm down. This isn't the place. Don't do this in the family chat." No. For the first time, the question went in the right direction. Toward Mia, Lila said that was the moment she knew the balance had shifted. Not fixed, shifted. Because once a family is forced to look at something in writing, all that soft nonsense gets harder to perform. I asked, "So what did Mia do?" Lila's face hardened. She tried to lie fast. That sounded right. Apparently Mia came back with 3 messages almost on top of each other. The first, "This is being taken out of context." Naturally. The second, "Ethan was encouraging me, and now Lila is twisting it because she's insecure." Predictable. The third one was my favorite. "I was trying to protect him. Please." I actually leaned back at that, because manipulative women always make the same final reach for moral superiority. They can be standing knee-deep in their own slime, and still insist they were helping. I asked, "Did anyone buy it?" Lila shook her head. "No, because Ethan answered." That was the real turning point. Not the family, not the screenshots. Ethan. According to Lila, he sent one message into the chat, and ended half the room's ability to pretend. He wrote, "I did not encourage Mia. I did not respond to her messages. I recorded her because the way she spoke about Lila was deliberate, personal, and clearly not the first time." That was clean. Very clean. No drama. No flirting back. No muddy gray area for Mia to hide in. Just a man refusing to let a liar write the version of events for him. Lila said after that, one of her older cousins married, usually quiet, suddenly dropped into the chat and wrote, "She did something similar to my fiancé before our engagement party. I told Mia to stop messaging him." There it was. Then another relative chimed in. Then another. Not huge confessions. Not some giant cinematic explosion. Worse, small confirmations. The kind that make a person realize everyone has been carrying one ugly little piece of the truth, while hoping someone else would deal with it. Lila said, "That was when the family finally stopped acting surprised." I believed that, because most families are not actually blind. They are lazy. There is a difference. I asked her, "Did Mia keep fighting?" Lila nodded. "Oh, she fought. Apparently Mia tried one last angle. She said everybody was ganging up on her. Said Lila had always been jealous of her. Said Ethan was trying to impress his new girlfriend by humiliating a woman he barely knew. Classic. When the facts fail, make yourself the victim. When the room turns, call it bullying. When your manipulation gets exposed, act wounded by the exposure." Lila said Mia even tried calling her twice while the family chat was blowing up. Lila did not answer. Good. Very good. Because panic should never be rewarded with immediate access. Then Lila told me her mother called instead. That interested me. I asked, "What did your mother say?" Lila looked at me for a second before answering. Then she said, very flatly, she asked me why I never told her it was this bad. That made me go still. Because that is one of the most infuriating questions in the English language. Why didn't you tell me? As if years of being dismissed do not count as an answer. Lila said she told her mother the truth. I did tell you. You just liked your version better.
That was a line worth framing. Not loud, not dramatic, but it cut in exactly the right place. I asked, what happened to Mia after that? Lila let out one slow breath and relaxed her shoulders for the first time since she sat down. Then she said, Mia got quiet. And honestly, that is one of the harshest punishments for a woman like Mia. Not jail, not a slap, not a screaming match, silence. A room that no longer leans toward her. A family that stops calling her harmless. A man she tried to bait, refusing to protect her version of reality. According to Lila, the family chat did not magically turn noble overnight. Nobody wrote some grand apology. Nobody suddenly became brave and wise and morally impressive. But something more useful happened. People stopped helping Mia. That is enough to collapse a woman like that. Because she had never survived on charm alone. She had survived on sponsorship. On people smoothing over her edges. On relatives preferring a pretty lie over an ugly truth. Once that stopped, she had nowhere soft to land. Lila told me Mia was not invited to New Year's dinner. Not formally exiled. Nothing theatrical. Just not included. And according to Lila, that hurt Mia more than being exposed. Of course it did. Women like Mia can survive shame. What they cannot survive is losing access. Losing the room. Losing the audience. I asked, and Ethan? That was the first time Lila's whole face changed. Not because this suddenly became a love story. Because finally, after years of men going weak where they should have gone clear, one of them had done the exact opposite. She said Ethan stayed. Not because he wanted credit. Not because he liked being the hero. Because he understood what he had walked into and did not insult her by pretending it was smaller than it was. That matters. A lot. She said. He told me the worst part wasn't that Mia wanted attention. It was that my whole family had been letting her practice on me for years. I sat with that for a second. Because he was right. The real villain is rarely just the one doing damage. It is also the room that keeps resetting the table for her. Lila looked down at her finished nails then. Cold, dark, sharp. Exactly the right choice. And she said, you know what the sickest part is? I asked. What? She said. If Ethan had been weaker, everyone would have blamed me again. Yes, that was exactly the sickest part. Not just what Mia did. What would have happened if it had worked one more time? That is what makes a pattern evil. The act itself is ugly, but the expectation of getting away with it is uglier. A few days later, according to Lila, Mia sent her one final message. Just one. It said, I hope ruining me was worth it. I actually laughed at that, because there it was. The final little lie. As if being exposed is the same thing as being ruined. No, you were not ruined by truth. You were ruined by finally running out of people willing to cushion it. Lila said she never answered. Good. Some women deserve silence more than closure. By then I was finishing the last top coat, and the room had gone that strange kind of quiet stories like this leave behind. Not sad. Not peaceful. Just sharp. I handed her the mirror. She looked at her nails for a second and said, that's exactly how I wanted them to look. I believed her, because they did not look forgiving. They looked finished. Before she left, I asked her one last question. Do you think she'll do it again? Lila picked up her bag and said, not to me. That was all she needed to say. After she walked out, I sat there for a second looking at my table. Because stories like this are never really about one cousin wanting one man. They are about appetite. About entitlement. About the kind of woman who thinks if something is loved, she should be allowed to test whether she can take it. And honestly, the worst part is never just the man she targets. It is the family that keeps calling her sweet while she sharpens her teeth. So let me ask you this. What's more disgusting? The woman who keeps crossing the line? Or the people who keep pretending they can't see where the line is? Because I'm telling you right now, some people do not get cruel all at once. They get away with it in little holiday installments.